this year is George Gibson. And about 2 years ago, I was at Barberville. Have you been to Barberville to the Fall Festival up there? Boy, that's a really, really good one. It's actually my second favorite thing after White Springs. And I was playing banjo, and a gentleman walked up and said, "I got a banjo I want you to see." And I'm always willing to look at banjos. So he opened the trunk of his car, and he didn't have a banjo. He had a trunk full of banjos, and one was nicer than the next, and so forth and so on. And so we sat around for a while, and I asked him if he could play, and he said, well, he didn't play much. And that was only the first of many lies he told me. And over a period of a couple of years, when I would be around at workshops, George would be there, and we'd get him to play. And every time George starts playing, all the other banjo players stop, because George learned from his family when he was growing up in Kentucky, and he knows some styles of banjo that I don't know anybody else who knows. So of course we had to invite him here, and he's a collector of instruments. He lives now down in the St. Cloud area, and he's got some really fine collector's instruments, and he's got some great styles on the banjo. And he's going to be our guest of honor for the entire weekend. And so here's his job. He's 3 times he's going to get up here and give music demonstrations. And the rest of the time he's charged with walking around and having fun. So if you see George and he's not having fun, do your best to get him started, okay? And make sure that this man has a good weekend. And if you have any questions about old-time music, particularly banjo, and if you want him to show you anything, well then corral him, because he knows a lot, and he'll be glad to teach you. Please welcome our guest of honor for the weekend, George Gibson. Okay. If you need any help, let me know. Then I'll just stand there to the side. Okay. Right here? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was born on the North Fork, the South Fork, and the North Fork of the Kentucky River. It dried up some summers. Actually, I was born at the confluence of Big Doubles, Little Doubles, and Buffalo Creeks. And if you can't locate that, that's just about a mile above where the waters of Wolf Pen meet the waters of Dead Bear Branch, across the hill from Red Fox. I lived in a pretty circumscribed world. I was born shortly before World War II, and grew up as a boy in that area, which we just called Burgess Creek, in the 40s and 50s. I didn't know it at the time, but I was growing up in a culture that had been broken. I could see the remnants of a telephone system that neighbors had maintained, and an old telephone here and there, but we didn't have telephones when I was growing up. There was a mass exodus from the mountains in the late 30s, 40s, and early 50s. I knew there was lots of empty cabins and houses, but there was a little music there. My dad will be 94 in June. He told me 3 or 4 years ago that he didn't know how old he was when he first began playing, because his dad played and had a banjo sitting in the house. I traded for a banjo when I was very young, 12 or 13 perhaps. Everybody traded in that area. We didn't have stores to go to, so if you needed something, you traded for it. And I ended up with an old banjo. I had heard a rumor that my dad played, but I'd never heard him play. And recently, one of my older sisters said that he sat around the table in the 30s and played and sang. He had a sister about his age, maybe 2 or 3 years older, that was reputed to be a good player and balladeer. She died in the late 30s, and he never really played after that. Well, in the real early 50s, when I located my first banjo, I also found an old fellow who could play. His name was Ambrose Amburgey. He would drink a little moonshine, sing about World War I, which he was a veteran. He sang Texas Rangers. but instead of saying Indians, he said Germans. And he sang a lot of wonderful old songs, and I was privileged to hear him play a few times. And after I'd learned to play, no one showed me much. I tried to watch everybody and figure out what was going on. My dad picked up the banjo one day and totally amazed me. He was a fine old-time player. Mel Amburgey said that he and my dad's sister learned to play together early in this century. And he said they could play 101 songs in one tune. And they tuned the banjo about 10, 12 different ways. And I still do that. That's the reason I've got 2 or 3 instruments up here. I don't want to spend a lot of time retuning. I'm supposed to give a music demonstration and tell you a little something about some of the real old music. The old players tuned it lots of different ways because a lot of them had learned to play on homemade fretless banjos. And you kept it in open chord tunings and played as near to the nut, the top of the banjo as you could. You didn't want to be playing it down on the neck because on a fretless banjo you didn't have frets to help you. And they did as much playing with their left hand as they did with the right. I worked up a little short demonstration of a song I never particularly heard anyone play in the old style, but this is about the way they would have done this song. I really wasn't doing a lot there, but of that type of music, it's very percussive, and they're picking strings up here as well as down here. So you make a lot of noise with very little movement. First song I'm going to do for you is a song, probably the first one I learned to play, was a song that Mel Amburgey played and sang called Morphine. I think the song has its roots in the Civil War, and I never heard it outside Knott County, Kentucky. I took morphine last Saturday night. When I took it in that morphine way. If the doctor hadn't come Knott County was ballad country. I was back up last summer talking to Grandpa Hudson, who was a fine balladeer and sang a lot of songs for me. And I was playing a song I wasn't singing. He said, "Son, if you can't sing it, don't play it." They sang to the dance tunes, and when somebody picked up a banjo, they picked it up to tell you a story. And back prior to World War II, there were bean stringings, corn pullings, school closings. They played music, and they told the old tales and songs. It was a fine time, and I was lucky to meet some of those people. I've been gone from that place about 35 years, and I've carried some of that around with me. At the head of Big Doubles lived a man who died in 1933. He was born in 1950. His name was James Edward Thomas. He built the cabin in which I was born. He was a carpenter, a furniture maker, a teller of old Indian tales, a riddler, and a dulcimer maker. Pretty well known today. Lots of people have written about him. He started making dulcimers about 1870, 71, and he died in 1933. He had a cabin at the head of Big Doubles, and my dad said he sat on the front porch and played his dulcimer quite a bit. And he pedaled his dulcimers up and down the hollows and creeks. Up there we only had two directions, up the hill and down, or up the creek and down, and all of them had a name. I remember the first time I got down the flatland, somebody said, "Well, old Uncle Joe lives out east." I said, "What are you talking about? Ain't no such directions as east and north, south and west. Any fool knows it's up the hill and down or up the creek and down." That's the way it was where I came from. I was home one time. I tried to get home once or twice a year, and a man named Horace Dickson came to see me. He liked to trade banjos, and he played a little bit with steel picks, and he played some of the old songs, and he played a real pretty tune one day. And I said, "Horace, what's the name of that song?" He said, "Son, that's Morgan's March." I said, "That's real pretty. Where'd you learn that?" He said, "Well, I'm going to tell you the truth about this now." He said, "Back during the Civil War," said my grandpa, Sam Combs, he had all his horses and cattle because General John Hunt Morgan came marching through the Pound Gap, and everybody knew he was going to steal the horses and cattle. And my grandpa was a fiddle player, so had his fiddle hanging up in the fireplace. Well, they couldn't find his horse and cattle, but they took his fiddle. He said Grandpa slipped up to the campfire that night, thought he might steal that fiddle back. But he couldn't. John Hunt Morgan was up with the fire playing his grandpa's fiddle, and he said that was the tune he was playing, and said that's the only thing my grandpa ever got out of that fiddle was that one tune. So the story is just as nice as the tune. I'm going to play that tune for you. One of the very few that I ever learned to play up in the mountains that didn't have words to it or that I didn't know somewhere. But this is my rendition of Morgan's March, and the only guy I ever heard play it was Mr. Horace Dickson. He lived right near Red Fox, up a little place called the Johnny Breeden Hall. to switch out banjos now because I play in lots of different tunings. And before Ernie talked me into doing this, mostly sat around the house and tuned more than I played. Getting from one tune to another, that's the reason I've got a couple, 3 different instruments up here. So I don't want to waste your time with me getting from one tune to another. What I'm going to do now is play one of my dad's favorite tunes for you. I'm not going to sing it, I'm going to play it for you. Sort of the way he played it. His style was entirely different from mine. I had him in Florida when he was around 90 years old, and I looked down one day and was totally amazed at how he was playing. He was picking the bottom strings with his middle finger and the inside strings with his first finger, and his thumb always did double time on the thumb string. He did do some double thumbing once in a while. I never really noticed his style. Mine was different. I pretty well taught myself to play by the time that I knew that for sure that he could play. But most people did that up there. I remember little Ambrose Amburgey had the wildest 2-finger picking style I ever saw, and his brother Wiley, he played pretty straight claw hammer. When they grew up together, they were pretty close as brothers, but they played very differently. So I'm going to play Pretty Polly for you. Then I'm going to pick up another instrument and play it on that instrument. Ernie has tried for 2 or 3 years to get me to enter a contest over here, and I do think, folks, it's a great thing to do, and anybody that enters as a winner, I was always felt a little trepidation, I guess, about doing that, but I finally told him that I would if he'd get up a contest for guitar-banjos, and he said there wasn't enough around to do that, guitar-banjos, so I guess I'll not enter that contest. I told him I'd enter a contest for 6-string 5 strings, and he said, "What's that?" I said, "Well, that's a 5-string banjo with an extra string in the middle of the peg head. I'll enter that contest." But he said there wasn't enough of those go around, but I got both of them here. Early on in my trading career, and I wasn't a very good trader, as I said, ended up with an OK banjo, which is a fine banjo. I like to play those Ks today. I also traded for a very unusual instrument for the mountains of Kentucky. It was a pretty expensive Vega White Lady guitar banjo. I got that thing, looked at it, and never could figure out what to do with it. I asked Russell Collins one time, told me he played the guitar. I said, "Well, how'd you tune it, Russell?" He said, "Just every which way that sounded good." I got to thinking about that, and I developed a tuning too for guitar banjo. I haven't played one in years, but I ran across this one. It says Gibson on it, and that's my name. I sort of like that. So these banjos, they started making them in the 1880s when they were doing a lot of experimentation with the banjos. This is a Gibson from about 1924. Some of the early blues players played these things. They do sound different. I have a guitar over here tuned the same way in case this one don't turn out to be sounding too good to you. Just let me know and I'll switch off on the guitar. But this is a tuning that I really don't know what I've done. I tuned it sort of to sound like Pretty Polly, because that's one of the songs I play in this tuning. A gentleman was kind enough to tell me a while ago what tuning I've got it in, and I'll see him around here and ask him and write it down. So if you ask me what tuning I've got it in, I'll be able to tell you. See, I'm wanting to start tuning already. She knelt down before him and begged for her life. Knelt down before him and begged for her life. Said, I'll be a single girl for the rest of my life. Stabbed her to the heart, and the heart's blood did flow. Stabbed her to the heart, and the heart's blood did flow. Oh, into the grave, pretty Polly did go. like to tell you about music in the mountains was that there were probably as many women, if not more, that played the banjo on Birdie's Creek around Knott County as there were men. My father's sister played, and I know lots of other women that played early in the century, in the 20s and 30s and 40s. Grandpa Hudson, who's still living, he's up in his 80s. I just saw him last summer win a foot race with someone half his age. He said he wasn't the best banjo player in his family, his sister was, and she's quite elderly now. He said she lived in Edgewater, Florida. This sort of concludes my performance for the evening. I believe I've just about used up my allotted time. I appreciate you folks listening to me. I've done this for two reasons, because I've come over here 2 or 3 years, and the people you meet here are the type of people you want for your neighbors. And I've did it also for some of those old banjo players that are dead and gone, like Bad Eye Bolin, Banjo Bill Corner, Mel Amburgey. There were lots of them in that time and place. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Gibson. I was born at the confluence of Big Doubles, Little Doubles, and Buffalo Creeks in Knott County, Kentucky. Just up the road from Wolfpen Creek, Deadmere Branch, and across the hill from Red Fox. One of my earliest memories is my dad using his truck, which had a big cattle rack on it, to move families to southern Indiana. And when I was a boy, I sort of thought I was the last person in the world that liked these old songs. And I used to traipse up down the road and try to get the words to them. And I found a few. Made up a few verses to some of them to piece them out. I've been gone the best part of 35 years. But I've always carried a few echoes with me from that time and place. I also became a collector of old instruments. Before I started collecting, I used to think collectors were the most boring people in the world. Just terrible to have one of them get you cornered. You know, if they collected buttons, they'd get a gleam in their eye. And you just couldn't get away. They had to tell you all about them. Well, after I started collecting old instruments, I found out that I was right. Collectors are crazy. I probably got 50 or 60 banjos, a lot of other old instruments. And if you get me cornered out here anywhere, don't ask me too many questions about them, because I'll just keep talking. Just tell me to shut up if I do that. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the instruments I have back here. I wanted to bring 7 or 8 that might have some small historical significance. I have back there an American-made shide hold that came from the Pennsylvania, Virginia area. That's the Germans bought those things here, and that's where the Dulcimer came from. It was built all through the mountains of Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky. The one back there is pretty old. It's early 19th century, more than likely, and just an interesting instrument. The cabin in which I was born was built by an old Dulcimer maker named James Edward Thomas. We always referred to him as Uncle Ed. He died in 1933. He made dulcimers from around 1870 until he died. And he was a teller of old Indian tales, and the boys in that neighborhood would gather at his cabin, and he'd tell tales, and he made dulcimers. He was also a carpenter. 2 of the boys that gathered there was my Uncle Orvin Hammonds and a gentleman named Ken Craft, who was born in 1900 and started making dulcimers in 1917. I have one of his dulcimers back there. Another Knott County dulcimer maker that Gene Ritchie wrote about was Jethro Amburgey, whom I knew when I was a boy. I have one of his dulcimers back there. I picked up a book by Jean Ritchie one time, and she was talking about dulcimer makers, and there's a wonderful dulcimer maker out in Arkansas named Lynn Spatten. And in the interview, they had asked him where he got his pattern from. He said, I have an old dulcimer here made by a gentleman named McKinley Craft in Bath, Kentucky. And you could tell the way they talked, he thought he was long dead, but he was living. And the next time I went home, I talked to him, and I said, Ken, how'd that dulcimer get to Arkansas? He said, well, son, my father homesteaded in Arkansas in 1908. We came back in 1914. There was a depression around the turn of the century, and a lot of people left that area for the west, Missouri, whatnot, Arkansas, Texas. He said, I went back out for a visit in 1922 and visited my uncle. Took a dulcimer with me. He said, while I was out there, I ran out of money and traded that dulcimer for Moonshine. He said, that's how that dulcimer got to Arkansas. I believe that song possibly came out of the mining camps. After the turn of the century, the mines moved from the Virginia side over into Kentucky. They built mining towns, and it was boom time in the mountains. My grandfather, who was a banjo player, I never heard him play, and my father wagoned a big car over in Ball Creek and bought pigs for 50 cents and hauled them to the mining camps and sold them for $2.50. Mining camps were exciting places. There were people there that moved there from Italy to work in the mines, black folks from Alabama and Georgia. And it must have been a real mixture of music styles in that time and place. I traded for an old guitar one time, and my dad totally amazed me. He sat down, pulled out his knife, and played Careless Love, using that knife as a slide. And I never did ask him where he learned that. Probably learned it in a mining camp, I'd say. I have all these instruments up here because I tune them several different ways, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time retuning. I'm going to put this one down, pick up another one, play another tune here. This is one of my father's favorite tunes. called Darlin Corey. I had two uncles that were brothers. One was Manuel Amburgey, the other was Wes Amburgey. I barely remember them because my mother's father was born in the 1850s, and he married and had a large family. His wife died. He wagoned between Kentucky and Virginia and met a lady over there and married her and raised another large family. They were 16 in all. But anyway, Manuel and Wes Amburgey married two of my mother's older sisters. And my grandfather lived on the mountain between Letcher County and Knott County, Kentucky. Wes married Carrie. And Manuel was courting Corey, and he'd sit up on that mountain and he'd play Darlin Corey, and he'd say, wake up, Darlin Corey, go do the best you can. Your sister's got my brother Wes, and you can get his brother Man. And when the courting's evening was over, he lived over on Doubles. He said, time to go over. He'd leave for home. Wake up, Darlin Corey. What makes you sleep so sound? I hear robbers coming for to tear your still house down. Wake up, my darling. Go run and get your gun. I ain't no man for trouble. Lord, don't die before I run. Wake up, my darling. Go do the best you can. I've got me another woman. You can get you another man. Dig a hole in the meadow. Dig a hole in the cocoa ground. Dig a hole down in the meadow, for to lay my darling down. First time I seen Darlin Corey was by the banks of the sea. Had a 45 all around her and a banjo on her knee. Guitar-banjo. I toted that around for a number of years, and I figured somebody had to play it. I don't know how they played it. I sort of developed a tuning or two for it. I play it as a sort of a cross between a dulcimer and a guitar and a banjo. I'm going to play you one of my favorite songs called Wild Bill Jones. I knew Wild Bill Jones. He might not have been the original Wild Bill, but he was brother to Colonel Jones that lived right above me. Colonel Jones was a man that was known to make a little moonshine once in a while. And when I was a boy, I got a whiff of that stuff, and it sure smelled awful. And I just couldn't figure out why anybody drank that old stuff. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, well, they say Colonel Jones makes that stuff. I'm going to go right up and ask him. He'll tell me. So I traipsed up the road. Colonel was hoeing in his garden. He had one of those big wide-bladed hoes that made out of worn-out saw, made the best hoes in the world. You'd make the weeds fly with them. He's a big, tall, long, lanky man. He's hoeing along, and I'm walking along beside him, and I finally said, Colonel, I got a question. He said, stopped hoeing. He looked down at me. He said, son, what is it? I said, Colonel, why in the world would anybody drink that old moonshine? He thought it over real serious, and he looked down at me and he said, son, well, I'll tell you the truth about it. He said, if you ain't got a dime in the world, it makes you feel like $1 million. They gathered at the Bath Post Office, long been continued, and they discussed politics once in a while and events in the neighborhood. And Colonel went down one day. That was his real name. They named people that way up where I came from. It was a given name, Colonel. They was talking politics pretty hot and heavy, and he was talking about Uncle Sam. They were whip stitch. And Colonel got tired of looking at that, and he jumped up and he said, I'll tell you, boys, said, what you ought to do, just take that Uncle Sam out and shoot him right twixt the eyes and get it over with. I went out on one day, just a rambling all around, when I met up with that old Wild Bill Jones. He was walking, he was talking, by my true love's side. Oh, I bid him for to leave her alone. He said, my age is a 22, much too old for to be controlled. Oh, I drew my revolver, pulled from my side. I destroyed that poor boy's soul. Oh, he fell to the ground, gave one dying moan, said, oh, darling, I will leave you alone. We'll get out your lonely fill, and we'll all get on the spree. For today was the last of that Wild Bill Jones, and tomorrow be the last of me. Thank you for your kind attention. Ernie talked me into doing this. It's the first time I've ever been on stage, and I did this with a small bit of trepidation, naturally. And I'll be up again tonight. I hope you enjoy what you're hearing. These old songs, you know, if you listen to them, they belong to you.
Great idea.
Hush up, little Bonnie blue eye. Hush up, little Bonnie, don't cry. For if you cry, you'll spoil those blue eyes. Hush up, little Bonnie, don't cry. Hush up, little Bonnie, don't cry. Hush up, little Bonnie. Goodbye, my little bunny, goodbye. Goodbye, my little bunny, goodbye. For my trunks all packed and I ain't coming back. Goodbye, my little bunny, goodbye. That song came out probably out of the turn of the century when there was a depression and lots of people from our area moved to Arkansas, Missouri, Texas. They sang some old Texas and Western songs in Knott County, and I'm sure they came from folks that went out west and visited back. My dad told me when he was 5 or 6 years old, there was 2 men in the yard talking to his father, and it was a sad time. One of the things they said was all good friends must part, and he had the impression they were going west. There was a killing along about that time in Knott County, and I think I know who those men were, and I think they went to the Oklahoma Territory. Now, I do think about that when I play this song. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Get back up home as often as I should, but when I do, I can go up Buffalo Creek, cross the Water Gap, go down Steer Fork to Big Car, go down Big Car for about a mile and turn up Smith's Branch, and get way up on Smith Branch. The mountains get real close together, and that's where Grandpa Hudson lives. And I can sit on his back porch play the banjo, feel at home. Seems like the banjo sounds better there. And it's just a great feeling. I've been in Florida 10 years, and coming to this affair, I get the same type of feeling. We've got 2 gentlemen here that always pass out awards. I've never seen them get one. So I've got an award for each of these gentlemen tonight, and I'm going to pass those awards out right now. About this back during basketball season. On the front of that shirt, we've got a little guy with a cap on. It says UK, and these guys can say that means United Kingdom if they want to. Okay. Now on the back of this shirt, it's got hanging around Knott County, Kentucky. It's got all the place names there, and it's got a place called Possum Trot. Now, we've got an honorable society up there, and all members are possums, but some are head possums. And I'm making these 2 gentlemen tonight honorary head possums. And if they look on there real carefully, they'll see some of the place names I was talking about. They'll see Buffalo, Big Double, Sporty Creek. They'll see Bath, Kentucky, which no longer exists, but they're all there. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you, George. Thank you. I'll wear my possum head shirt with pride.
Thank you very much. Now, the only problem I had in choosing sizes was Ernie was no problem, but all the friends of Jim Strickland were very non-committal. They wouldn't just give me a straight-out answer, you know.
This is good. This is good.
Well, I'm going to pick up a banjo. I got these three things tuned different ways, so I don't know which one this is what tune I'm in here. I'm going to see, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to play. That one seems to have gotten a little bit out of tune, so I'll pick up another one. That's close enough for government work. I'm going to play a little tune called Rocky Island. Go to Rocky Island, don't you want to go? Go to Rocky Island, see my honey, oh, she's my county darling. Oh, my honey, ho, she's my county darling. Oh, my honey, ho. Going up on the mountain, so a little cake. Make them some sourdough sweet from Liza Jane. She's my county darling. Oh, my honey, ho. She's my candy darling, ho, honey, ho. Wish I had a big white horse, gonna feed 'em all. Her little girl staying home, waiting for my little dog. This song is called Kentucky Moonshiner. I picked up a couple verses early on, don't know exactly where. My father, who would be 94 in June, was down with me when he was around 90. I'd never heard him play this song. He picked it up one day and started playing, and he sang a verse of this song, and in an entirely different tune in which I play it in. But I was surprised when he did that, and it was a nice feeling. I've been a moonshiner for 21 long years. I've spent all my money on whiskey and beer. I'll go to some hollow and sit up my still and sell you 1 gallon for a $2 bill. I'll go to some grocery and drink with my friends. I have no woman to see what I spend. God bless those pretty women, I wish they were mine. Their breath tastes as sweet as the good old moonshine. Well, it's cornbread when I'm hungry, corn whiskey when I'm dry, and it's pretty girls when I'm lonesome, and a casket with a dime. The whole world's a bottle, and last but a dram. When a bottle gets empty, Lord, it ain't worth 1 damn.
It may not be. If it's not, just get it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to play you one of my father's very favorite tunes. It's a favorite tune up and down Sporty Creek and Buck Creek, Buffalo Creek. all over that area. This is a tune they dance to. You take a guy that had to have a couple of shots of good moonshine to get up and cut a rusty. Well, if he just had a smell and he heard this tune, he'd be up there cutting a rug and doing the buck and wing. My dad said the first time that he heard that song, he was walking along the road with his uncle, and it was Uncle Nort, and Uncle Nort was whistling that tune. He told me about the first time that he took Uncle Nort to Hazard, Kentucky, and they put up a red light down there, and Dad drove down, and got right in front of that light and stopped, and Uncle Nort looked around and said, "Mally, what's wrong with you? You stopped right in the middle of the damn road." Dad said, "Look up there, Uncle Nort." Said, "That's a red light." Uncle Nort said, "Drive on, Mally, you're going to miss it by 10 feet. Uncle Nort was my dad's favorite uncle. He told me a lot of tales about him. And I remember talking to him one time when he traded his old mule for a car. I was walking home from school and his car must have been down. I got to thinking back and I said, "Uncle Nort, is it hard to drive a car?" Uncle Nort said, "Lord, no, honey, ain't nothing in the world to it. Any man that's ever driven a team or rid a blind mule can drive a car." He said, "Well, honey, when first time I ever got in her, I mortally flew." I said, "Uncle Nort, how fast was he going?" He said, "Honey, I was going at 15 and 20 miles an hour." I'm going to sing a little song I put together. I don't know whether you should try this or not, but I got this old guitar tune, sort of like a dulcimer and a banjo. But I sort of made this up from an old song. Way up on old doubles, where I live all alone, drink is my own. Corn whiskey, corn whiskey, corn whiskey, I pray. I make my own whiskey and drink it every day. I walk up Old Doubles every Saturday night. I play on my banjo till it gets daylight. I'll drink my corn whiskey and sing you a song. Way up on Old Doubles where I wander along. Corn whiskey, I know you so well. You killed my old daddy and sent him to hell. Corn whiskey, you're no friend to me. You killed my old daddy, and now damn you try me. I'll be in this card game till the last card does fall. I'll be in this card game 'cause it's win or take all. Jack a diamond, I know you are old. You robbed my poor pocket of silver and gold. Creek back in the teens and 20s, lived a fiddler named Simon Ward, and there was about 5 families lived on that little creek at that time. There's nobody living there now. Dad said he took delight in his fiddle. Dad would walk up there on a Saturday night, and Simon would get out some moonshine and some ham, and they'd play and sing till late in the morning. And they had a telephone system that everybody maintained. People all up and down the valleys and hollows would listen in, down to the exchange down in Stamper Town. And I think about that when I sang this little song. That they had a community still up there. I talked to one man that was in on it. His name was John Collins. A relative turned him in, and the revenuers came and cut it up. John said that revenuer run him to death. Just run till he couldn't run anymore, and he sat down. The revenuer kept coming, and he shot right at him. Thought he'd killed him dead, but he hit the bark in a tree right beside the guy, and got a lot of bark in his face and eyes. And he came walking out of the holler. Told my dad he thought he'd killed the revenuer, and his brother called down after a while. Dad said, "No, that man was all right." But the first man that came out of the holler was the big Indian named Langdon Bell. And Dad said he come out of that holler, he's running fast, and Dad had a big gate at the mouth of the holler, about 6 foot tall. That guy, Dad said he cleared it with 2 foot. Dad had a little grocery store down there, and he went running by, and he looked around at my dad, and he said, "I've outrun 5 years and 5 minutes." Dad said he didn't slow down, and he never did see him again. But I barely remember John Collins telling me that. He's one of the guys that moved to Indiana. My brother was walking down the street in Connerville one day and heard somebody picking a banjo on the 2nd floor of a boarding house. It was John Collins up there picking and singing. I'm going to sing an old song that I sang when I was a boy. And if you folks want to, you can help me a little bit. As you probably know, this is the first time I've ever been on stage. Ernie Williams taught me into this. But I've enjoyed being here and all the kind comments I've had from you people. I'm going to try to sing this song. It's an old song. You gotta walk that lonesome valley. You You gotta go all by yourself. No one here can go there with you. You gotta go all by yourself. Some folks say John was a Baptist. Others say he was a Jew. But the Holy Bible tells us that he was a preacher too. You gotta walk that lonesome valley. You gotta go all by yourself. No one here can go there with you. You gotta go all by yourself. I ask these kind of folks to join me. Right ahead. Mother said, as she lay dying, just before she passed away, son, oh son, put your trust in Jesus. He will lead you every day. You gotta walk that lonesome valley. You gotta go all by yourself. No one here can go there with you. You gotta go all by yourself. Once more. You gotta walk that lonesome valley. You gotta go all by yourself. No one here can go there with you. You gotta go all by yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you, folks. I really appreciate being here. You're the best audience I could have ever had.
George, we really appreciate the shirts, and we're not going to give you an award because you are the award for this weekend for coming here. So I thank you once again. We do have a disaster happening in the background, however, being wrought by my friend Jim Strickland. Whip out that ribbon, James. This says George Gibson, guest of honor, 1994. Florida Old Time Music Championship, and it's just the right size, George, to wear. It's right here. Hangs down. And thank you very much. We couldn't be happier to have you here.
I really practiced up for this. I spent 2 hours on Thursday night practicing my autograph. I'm ready.